It's the Real News Network. I'm Sharmini Pires coming to you from Baltimore. Back on February 15th, within weeks of taking office, President Trump honored Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel by making him one of the very first heads of state to visit Trump at the White House. During the visit, the question of one-state or two-state solution to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict resurfaced once again. The UN General Assembly has repeatedly endorsed the right of Palestinians to an independent state alongside Israel. U.S. foreign policy has gone along with that policy for 2 decades, but now it appears that the Trump administration is open to abandoning the two-state framework. One-state solution has many ups and downs for Palestinians, depending on who is governing Israel. There are about 4.5 million Palestinians living under Israeli military occupation. They have no or few civil rights, and their human rights are violated by Israeli authorities on a regular basis. Under one-state solution, who would represent Palestinians? Officially, Palestinians under occupation are represented by the Palestinian government in Ramallah under the leadership of President Mahmoud Abbas, but they have not been very effective in asserting the rights of Palestinians. To discuss these questions and more, I'm being joined by Alaa Tartir, who is a specialist on Palestinian government and its history. Alaa Tartir is the program director of Ala Shabaka, the Palestinian Policy Network. Tartir is also a research fellow at the Center for Conflict, Development and Peace Building, the Graduate Institute in International Development Studies in Geneva, Switzerland. He's also a postdoctoral fellow at the Geneva Center for Security Policy. Many thanks for joining us today, Alaa.
Thank you so much for having me here.
And so let's begin with what happened in terms of this press conference I stated in the introduction between Prime Minister Netanyahu and Donald Trump. They very loosely were talking about being the administration that would bring about a peaceful solution in Palestine and Israel. But they didn't nail down anything there in that meeting, but they did talk about the possibility of departing from a two-state solution. At least that's what the media reported, what was being said inside the administration. Mm-hmm. What did you make of that?
Yeah, well, what kind of peace? That is really the question. What they talked about was this departure from one-state reality. And what does that mean? Is it moving into, or is it really becoming and validated as a reality of apartheid, or is it a reality of further annexation of Palestinian land? But the important point about that press conference is it was a very clear affirmation that this solid relationship between Israel and the U.S. and the U.S. administration is not really a solid ground for a real and genuine peace. It was very clear that the U.S. is a very dishonest broker for peace, and depending on the U.S. to achieve a lasting and genuine peace is not really the right direction to go. So that was a good and clear reminder that the U.S. cannot really lead the Palestinians and Israeli to a real and genuine peace agreement, because basically they are not really interested. But what was really striking, although not surprising, is the fact that the U.S. administration represented by Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu clearly challenged the international norms and the international law by basically saying we're above that law. We don't care about the UN resolutions about settlements. We don't care about all these different resolutions, and actually we're violating them, and we know that we're violating them. So that was the lack of accountability for such irresponsible acts that contradicts with the international law was very clearly dominant, which shows that we're entering a new era where these actors will support each other to continue violating the international law. And going back to the question of what kind of peace, when you hear the conditionality that and the new vision, if you want, of Netanyahu and Trump, it's not a vision for peace. It's a vision for further annexation. It's a vision for how to gain more territories from the Palestinian Authority and how to keep them basically under that brutal occupation. Because Netanyahu talked about what? He talked about further control of all the land, and also talked about the settlements and how settlements are really going ahead with the support of the U.S. administration, but also about the Jewish nature of the Israeli state. And here is really the issue where all these conditionalities are put on the table. And even if there will be a negotiation at some point between the Palestinians and Israelis, they clearly stated that these are the preconditions before we start a negotiation process. And this is really the problem, where this administration and with the Prime Minister of Israel are again joining forces to block any real and genuine peace. What was really striking as well during this conference is that they completely ignored the root causes of that conflict. And the prerequisite for any peace or for any justice is the immediate end of the Israeli occupation of the Palestinian land. And this was completely out of the picture that both leaders talked about.
Right. What was the reaction on the part of the Palestinian Authority? Also, a separate question, what was the reaction of Hamas to what was being discussed in Washington? Yeah,
it was a tough moment for the Palestinian Authority, because the Palestinian Authority, as firm believers of the two-state solution, this was not good news for them. Just imagine someone doing business for more than 20 years and now in few seconds you come and tell him, no, you're out of business. So obviously they didn't accept it in a good spirit at all, and they resisted back and they pushed back and said and confirmed that that is the only way forward and the only way to go, because they adopt these rules of the game and they play with them. And this is really, this was not really good news for them, because that means that the Palestinian Authority could be a different Palestinian Authority in a new reality of the one-state vision of Trump and Netanyahu. So they're still reacting, but also, and most importantly, this is a very important opportunity for the Palestinian leadership to react and to act in a way to challenge this new evolving system that is starting going on from now, and they have really a long homework to do. The first thing that they can do, and they would do justice for the Palestinians if they really stop living in the myth of statehood. The Palestinian Authority and its leadership believe that they will get a statehood, and that was really very clear from the moment Oslo was signed, from Rabin in 1995 until today, where's Netanyahu. It was very clear, and the Israelis were very transparent about it. There will not be a Palestinian state. And therefore, the Palestinian Authority and the Palestinian leadership should really be very aware of this fact and be honest to themselves first and to their nation and to their people, and to stop believing in this myth. So that is really something important. And then they should shift towards a right-based approach for the Palestinian struggle that aims to achieve equality for everyone living on that land. But beyond that, it is very clear that the Oslo paradigm and the Oslo Peace Accords framework is really dead, and it's about time to revoke that. And in the coming days, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas is going to Geneva at the Human Rights Council, and that is a golden opportunity for him to go and tell the international community, we're done, we're fed up, the Palestinians cannot live with that. Unfortunately, I don't think it will go that far, but there are a number of avenues where the Palestinian Authority and the Palestinian leaders can go and stay and say to the international community, the Palestinian Authority did a lot over the last 20 years, and now it is about time to reconfigure the duties of the Palestinian Authority in reaction to the new realities that are unfolding. But at the minimum, at this level, in addition to this list of things that the Palestinian Authority can do, it is a wonderful opportunity for the Palestinians to unite again and to bridge this intra-Palestinian divide that has been 10 years old now. And that is what is making the Palestinian position very weak in any further negotiation, but in everyday life. So Fatah and Hamas should be held accountable, but also should address the question of divide now and immediately now. And the Palestinian leadership, they have lots on their disposal in terms of tools that they can use, in terms of resolutions that's supported by the international law that can be used. However, they are not using it. And obviously, there's a question of effectiveness, there's a question of legitimacy, and there's a question of representation of this Palestinian leadership. But there are a number of tools that can be used now to confront and challenge the new norm or the new system that is unfolding there by challenging and clashing with the US administration and with the Israeli administration, because that is the only way to go and liberate yourself from brutal occupation like the Israeli one.
Are there any signs that there are followers in terms of this newly declared position in Washington and the international community? Now, the UN has clearly supported a two-state solution, has accepted accepted Palestine as a recognized state, as a member state at the United Nations. So do you think that the international community will roll back their position as a result of what Washington might be thinking here?
Well, here there is an important role for the international community beyond the US to be played, and particularly by the European Union and the European countries, because also they are the biggest donors for the Palestinian Authority in terms of financial aid that they are giving. And it's a good opportunity to revisit this completely and fundamentally biased and problematic Oslo framework, where this provides an opportunity for them to go and ask, there is one state reality now, but what is the nature of that one state reality? And it is indeed because the US is an dishonest broker for peace, as we said before, then it is the opportunity for the other actors to clash with the US and challenge the US administration and tell them and the Israelis that occupation has been going for so long, and it's about time to change that power dynamic now and end the Israeli occupation. And that is a duty of the international community, and it's a duty for the UN to implement its different resolutions, like the settlements is the recent one, but the right of return and the others. There is a very long list of UN resolutions that need to be implemented and hold the different actors accountable to all these resolutions, which is not happening. So here is the role of the international community, and it's about time that they move from being complicit in sustaining the occupation but instead to support the Palestinians in order to gain their freedom again.
All right, Ala, thank you so much for joining us today. And we're going to take up the question of the Palestinian economy in our next segment.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us here on the Real News Network.